Oh, hamstring. Up. Sniper, take the other picture.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you can formulate opinions without having true facts.
I'm telling you, think about it logically for just a second.
Dear Reds fans.
Welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman.
Well. Good morning and a pleasant good Monday morning. Weekend kicking off in prime time fashion. We welcome you as always to Off the Bench, presented by our friends at United Dairy Farmers. I'm Thom Brennaman. We come your way 10 through 12
P.
Oh, yeah. A little slow to the trigger again. That's Monday through Friday. You can find us on YouTube, Chatterbox Sports page. If you'd rather join us in podcast form, just search Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman, and you're dialed in before we get to anything. It should be noted. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Tom.
You came in a little down today.
See,
Little down today.
I'm sorry I didn't do a
That's
cartwheel.
not your MO.
I'm sorry I didn't do a cartwheel when I walked in the door, but I'm happy as ever, happy as a clam. Who day one? We're back to 500. So it was a nice weekend, Tom.
I'm very happy. I'm the most happy I've ever been, Tom, sitting right now in front of you on this show.
You can tell it by his smile.
I am. This is genuine. This is a genuine smile.
Did you get a ticket this weekend?
No, I didn't get a ticket.
Because I saw you posted something about
Yeah.
I mean, it's really good to take shots at police forces around town. That's
Yeah,
always
that's
a
what I
really
heard.
good
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
right?
That's what I heard. Well, Tom, you don't know this area probably. You're with the muckety mucks up in wherever. You don't.
That's right.
There's
That's
no
right.
police department. Everybody. It's just utopia where you live. But where I live,
is.
there's this little area. It's called Addiston.
I know where Addison is. Go ahead.
Well, I was driving through it, and I saw this poor guy getting pulled over by a cop. And if you've driven through Addison, you know you have to go under 25 miles per hour because they will pull you over if you go even 1 mile per hour over. And the guy that was behind me was probably going, I don't know, he was probably going 26, 27. Got pulled over, and I looked in my rearview mirror. I saw him. He's slamming things in his car, and it's just a brutal place to be. The Addison Police Department. They just pull you over if you're going 1 mile per hour over.
So you've basically doubled down. You bury him on Twitter, and now you bury him on Off the Bench.
Well, you just asked me.
Do you not respect the blue?
I respect
you had
the
a
blue.
I don't think
chance
he
to just
respects
sort of
the blue.
say,
Thin blue
"Man, I
line."
respect these guys. They got a tough job to do. Casey, good morning.
Good morning, Tom.
You doing all right today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm feeling a lot better than I was last week.
Good.
I still died on Draft or Die. I know that might have been a little bit of a spoiler, but that didn't feel great. Geno Smith got absolutely killed. That didn't feel great. But all that doesn't matter. The Falcons also didn't do great either. All
No,
that
they
doesn't
didn't.
matter, though, because my Bengals are 3-3. So
And it's unbelievable. We learned before the show today, roughly about 45 minutes before the show today, that Tyreek Hill, according to Casey, would be the fourth option in the Bengals passing game.
Wow.
If he were to come on board.
That's
Buried
what it
on the
takes.
depth chart
That's
behind
ab-
Jamar, behind T,
yep.
who had all of one catch yesterday, and Tyler Boyd.
That is so
Yep.
disrespectful
Behind all of them.
to Irv Smith because Tyreek would be the fifth.
My Lord. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like that our receiving core is the best in the league. I don't know. Tyreek Hill, he leads the league in receiving yards, but I don't know if he can cut as a Bengal
He's almost at 1,000 yards receiving.
in 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not good enough.
It's unbelievable.
Not good enough for me.
All right, look, we're going to talk about the Bengals defense, okay? Because this offense is a lot more times than not really hard to watch, right? We call it as we see it here on the program. We always do. Now, in fairness, Lou Anarumo's unit has struggled for most of this season. Remember, Anarumo said back in free agency, his worst nightmare would be losing safeties Von Bell and Jesse Bates. And as we know, his worst nightmare came true, as both bolted for other teams. We also know that Zach Taylor doesn't play his starters in the preseason. So for most of this young season, the defense looked like they've never played the game before. Heck, you can make that argument on offense. But let's be honest. You had confidence. I had confidence that the Bengals defensive coordinator would figure this stuff out, and things are certainly trending in that direction. Cincinnati's defense sacked Geno Smith 4 times, intercepted the Seattle quarterback twice, held the Seahawks to less than 90 rushing yards, stopped them twice on 4th down inside the 10. They were lights out when it mattered most in a 17-13 gritty, ugly, tough win. And yes, the Bengalis are now 3-3 with a bye week on the horizon. I guess we have to talk about the offense. I'm sitting there with my computer, and I watched the first 2 drives, and I'm just getting ready to sit down and start typing this monologue and saying, wow, there they were, the best they've looked all year long. 2 drives, 2 touchdowns, 142 yards, great protection for Joe Burrow. And then what? And then what? What happened? Seriously, what happened to this once again ballyhooed offense? They didn't go south. They went off the rails entirely. The next nine drives produced 3 points, a total of 74 yards, with 6 punts, an interception, and a kneel down. 52 yards of offense in the second half. Seattle's good. They ain't that good. And is this team ever going to be able to run the football? 15 rush attempts for 46 yards. The Las Vegas Raiders are the only team in the league averaging fewer rushing yards per game than your Cincinnati Bengals. They are spending a king's ransom on this offensive line. I got to go back and look it up. But you would be hard-pressed to find a team that is spending more money on their offensive line than the Bengals are spending this season. And they can't convert a 3rd and 1. All right. Enough already. We've heard that somewhere before. Move on to San Francisco in 2 weeks. Speaking of the Niners, they roll into Cleveland, undefeated, figuring it would stay that way. I mean, especially once they learned that Deshaun Watson would not be playing for a 2nd straight week due to an injured shoulder. But look what happened. The Brownies, Casey.
Yes, Tom.
The Brownies.
They stink.
They don't stink. They pounded the Niners, rushed for 170 yards against the Niners. Journeyman quarterback P.J. Walker, he wasn't great, but he made enough plays. Cleveland defense is just outstanding, period. It adds up to a 19-17 Browns win in a game that everyone thought the Brownies would lose. Further bad news for San Francisco, their 2 best offensive weapons, Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, both left the game with injuries, did not return. By the time the Bengals play the 49ers, will they be healthy? And the Niners have a short week. Next week, they play Minnesota on Monday Night Football. Baltimore, no team in the league, again, more beat up with it than they are. Injuries to key players all over the place. Their offense looked average at best, but their defense completely shut down Tennessee, even knocking Ryan Tannehill out of the game. 24-16 they win in London. Pittsburgh had the week off. So we take a look at the AFC North standings. Now, you can look at the standings and you can say, well, the Bengals are only 1 game behind. Do we have the standings?
Yeah, I got it.
All right. They're only 1 game behind the leaders in the Ravens. But that 3rd column is the one, or the 2nd column is the one that hurts you. You're already 0-2 in the division. Now, they have 1 more left against the Brownies, they have 2 against the Steelers, and they have 1 more against the Ravens. But they've got some work to do. But who knows? Maybe this is all about a late season run again for the Bengals. Mid-season run. So after the Niners lose, that left 1 unbeaten team in the league, the defending NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles. They played the Jets. And again, who would have thunk it? New York. Now, I'm not so sure New York doesn't have the best defense in the league. When you watch them play, and they didn't even have Sauce Gardner yesterday. He was out with an injury. They can really play defense, man. They intercept Jalen Hurts 3 times and win 20-6 teams. Could you make the argument the 2 best teams in the NFL right now might be the Lions and the Dolphins? Could you make that argument?
You certainly could make that argument. You lose that argument, but you can certainly make that argument, Tom.
You would lose that argument
because the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL.
That's just a bad take.
It's just everyone told me how good the 49ers and the Eagles were, and here they lost to middling AFC teams, as Jacob Tissett pointed out on Twitter. But they have got the best quarterback, they got the best coach. They're 5-1, and everyone can say they don't put up 45 points a game or whatever, but whatever. The Chiefs are the reigning champs, and they keep winning. They're the best team in the league, Tom.
I would not. I mean, it's the NFL. There's parity. Teams are going to lose. Now, the 49ers one, they were dealing with a lot of injuries. I know the Browns were too, so it was an injury off in that game. But it was ugly. It was just a brutal game. I think Brock Purdy, we had an argument last week how he's the current MVP, looked horrible. He was, I think, like 12 for 27.
First game he's ever lost.
12 for 27, 120 yards. He just looked brutal. I mean, he didn't have his 2 guys out there. And I know everybody was telling me before how good the defense was for the Browns and is for the Browns. But at the end of the day, it just if you take away that guy's stars, I don't know what you have in Brock Purdy. If you look at the Eagles, I think that's a fluke game. You chalk that up to a fluke game. The Eagles are damn good.
But you're right about the Jets' defense. They're for real.
Man.
They're for real. I don't know if they're the best
They get
defense.
after people, man.
Did you see this stat about the Cleveland Browns defensive unit through 5 games or whatever? They've allowed the fewest yards in NFL history in 50 years or something like that.
The most efficient defense the league has ever seen in the first 6 weeks.
We can talk more about that game later, though.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that. I mean, I think it's a disingenuous to say that Brock Purdy lost that game when he had them in position to win. We'll talk about that later. But Eagles and the Jets, I think that's also disingenuous. I think the Jets are just a really damn good team on defense. They had Aaron Rodgers, they might be the best team in the league.
And I tell you what, I don't know if some of you saw the clip about Aaron Rodgers. He's walking around with no cast.
I saw that.
I mean, with no crutches. He's out there slinging balls around. This dude.
He's trying to come back.
Yes, he is. And I would not be surprised one bit if he finds a way to get back. All right, on to college football. Now, look, many of us wondered how the UC Bearcats would fare in basketball as a member of the Big 12 Conference. And rightfully so. It's the best league in college hoops. No debate about it. But did we take for granted their ability to compete in football? This season is quickly, UC alum Elliott, spiraling out of control as the Bearcats lost their 3rd straight conference game. They're 0-3. And their 4th straight game overall, they were drilled 30-10 against Iowa State. UC had barely over 200 yards of offense, less than 100 yards passing, and turned it over twice. Next up, at Nippert Stadium with Baylor. Baylor's not good. That game is at noon this Saturday. Bears are 2-4 on the year after getting hammered by Texas Tech over the weekend. Don't look now. But does anybody care in Oxford? Does anybody care?
No.
The hottest team in Greater Cincinnati is Miami of Ohio. The Redhawks sit atop the MAC East standings after winning their 6th straight game. 34-21 at Western Michigan. Next week, a huge game in Oxford. And I'll be interested to see how many students actually go to that game. Because it's the first big game, truly big game, Miami has played in maybe a decade at home. They're playing the team that most people felt like Toledo and Ohio U were the 2 best teams. Miami has been the best team in the East. Toledo's the best team in the West. They come to Oxford, 4 p.m. kickoff. Over under. 3,000 fans.
Certainly under 3,000 students. There ain't going to be 3,000 students in that crowd, Tom. I mean,
I'll hammer the under.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching that
The game won't even be on at Brick Street. The game won't even be on the TV.
Yes, it will.
Tom, I've been there to Miami when they're playing like OU, and the game's not on TV.
That's wild.
It's not on TVs at their biggest bars. They got every other game on TV, but not Miami. That school would not change if they didn't have athletics.
I saw their kicker, by the way, is 13 for 13 on the year. The only other kicker who's as good as Alabama's kicker, I don't know either of their names. Obviously, they're kickers. But a good kicker. Miami has a very good kicker.
Also, did you say Miami's in the east of the MAC and Toledo's in the west?
Yeah.
Despite Miami being farther west than Toledo?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Just you learn something new every day. Now, we talked about Ohio University. They
Here
were
we go.
the hottest team in the MAC,
Yeah.
but the Bobcats laid an egg. No other way to put it. 23-13. The Red Hot Cats lose at Northern Illinois. OU and Miami collide in Athens 2 weeks from now. Already getting ready. The old saying used to be, get ready to get ready to get ready. We are getting ready for the big one this weekend. The Ohio State University Buckeyes taking on Penn State at Ohio Stadium. The Buckeyes improved to 6-0 with their most complete effort on the season, a 41-7 rout of Purdue. Ohio State was missing its top 2 running backs. Another had to leave the game hurt, but still ran for better than 150 yards. Kyle McCord, 3 touchdowns. The defense is lights out. So is Penn State's. The Nittany Lions are undefeated and ranked 6th. They're 7th. They dropped 2 this week because Washington rolled right up. This is a big league game, big-time game. Saturday, high noon at the Shoe in Columbus. The best game of the weekend on paper turned out to be the best game of the weekend on the field. What a show put on by Washington and Oregon. The Huskies score the go-ahead touchdown with 2 minutes to go. Oregon misses a game-tying field goal at the buzzer. 39-36, Washington wins. The Huskies go to 6-0. The Ducks lose for the first time this year. We have always thought on this show that USC is a fraud. But we thought that because of their terrible defense. Who would have thought their offense would look so bad against Notre Dame? Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams threw for fewer than 200 yards. He was sacked 6 times and was intercepted 3 times in a 48-20 Notre Dame rout. The Irish score 4 touchdowns on offense, return a kickoff for a touchdown, scoop up a fumble for a touchdown. It was no contest. Speaking of frauds, look no further than across the mighty Ohio, Elliott. Louisville, you had them in your top 5 last week.
I did.
Fraud, hammered by Pitt. Kentucky,
They're probably 6 now, right?
Yeah, they're 6.
Kentucky. Okay, they lose to Georgia. That's okay. Got the coach talking about, we got to be able to have more money and be able to pay more players and blah, 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 blah. Hammered by Missouri. All right, on to baseball. The underdog Texas Rangers have still not lost a single game in this postseason. And so, look, I don't hear anybody talking about, you don't need to make a deal at the deadline. I don't hear a lot of that talk going on around here. Jordan Montgomery, I believe they traded for him.
They did?
I believe they did. He outdueled Justin Verlander in Game 1 of the American League Championship Series, 2-0 the final. Montgomery pitched into the 7th, allowed 5 hits, walked only 1. And then there's another guy that they traded for.
Uh-oh.
Aroldis! Aroldis Chapman. A perfect 9th inning. Oh, but no, don't make that deal. Don't give up anything to help yourself, maybe be better. In 2 or 3 games you could have won. Don't do that. Game 2 this afternoon in Houston at 4:30. You can watch the game on Fox. In the National League, the championship series starts tonight in Philadelphia. Pair of wildcard teams, the Fightin' Phils and the upstart Diamondbacks. Arizona, like Texas, has not lost a game in this postseason, sweeping Milwaukee and the Dodgers. It's a pretty interesting story. Zach Gallen starts tonight for the Diamondbacks. He grew up in Jersey, 15 or 20 minutes away from the ballpark he'll pitch in tonight. His whole family are all Phillies fans. He's had texts from buddies of his that say, we hope you go 7 innings and that the bullpen gives it up and the Phillies win 1-0. That's a true story. His mom went to the World Series last year. Zach got her tickets for the World Series so she could go to the game. Because her son got her the tickets, she wore an Arizona Diamondback sweatshirt when the Phillies were playing in the World Series against Houston last year. So, Mom, hey, she's going to be fighting it a little bit tonight. Zach Wheeler will get the ball for Philadelphia. That's a big-time pitching matchup tonight. So you are up to speed. All right, Casey, you are always on an otherwise cloudy day, and we'll get, of course, to the weather coming up shortly, a little earlier today. So if you're looking to plan your day and night, we will have the weather at 10:50, a little bit earlier, because Kyle Caskey will come on with us at 11 o'clock. Casey?
Yes, Tom.
Your thoughts about your Cincinnati Bengals?
Whoa,
Give me a full report.
We're starting with me today, huh?
Yes, we are, starting with you, because you are the voice of optimism. And you are the guy who is not afraid to step out on a limb and say that Tyreek Hill would not even start for the Bengals. Go ahead.
Oh, man. Yesterday, really good for one quarter. Something happened, and I think, in all honesty, I think it was a collective effort that they struggled. A lot of people are blaming Joe Burrow. They're blaming the offensive line. I think it was a collective effort, right? I think the play call wasn't great either. I think yesterday they also faced a really good defense. They faced a team that could stop the run. They're top 5 in stopping the run. We all know that they've got some really great athletes on the perimeter with Woolen and Witherspoon, who Witherspoon had a great day. Targeted, I think, maybe 3 times, didn't give up a single pass. To me, this game, it could have been a lot better. Obviously, I think we all feel that way. There was a lot of situations in the second quarter that I feel like could have been avoided. Some opportunities missed. I'm looking at, the 3 and out was really big for the field goal. You wish that you could have drove down the field a little bit more, took some more time off the clock. The 2-sack drive where Joe Burrow was sacked basically on back-to-back plays. The 3rd and 1 not being able to run up the gut.
Yep.
That was tough too. They just weren't efficient. They weren't efficient yesterday. They were efficient for 2 drives, and that was it.
The first 2 drives.
Yep. But despite that, this defense, they look better than they were last year, in all honesty. Trey Hendrickson, you look at the numbers, and you look at the numbers that were taken away from him, he would be leading the league right now in sacks. He'd be probably leading the league in turnovers created. This team was able to limit the mistakes that they've been making for the last 5 weeks, not giving out any of the perimeter stuff, staying in their lane, staying contained, not making a lot of mental errors, and it paid off. They only gave up 13 points against a very high-powered offense.
That's exactly right. Or a team that was scoring this year. Let's put it that way. They were scoring a lot.
Yeah.
They were the 6th highest scoring team in the league coming into the game was Seattle. Gentlemen, your overall thoughts of the game.
Yeah, I think you can't overstate how big the defense came up in the second half. In 6 possessions in the second half, the Seahawks were in the red zone 4 times. They had just 3 points.
That's right.
That's incredible.
Yep.
That's coming up. That's standing the test. And there's multiple guys that you could point at and say, man, they had a great game. Trey Hendrickson, obviously, great. Cam Taylor-Britt, and I've said this last year. I thought when we drafted him, I thought when he got some playing time last year, I was like, this guy's a ball player, and we're seeing him blossom into a great cornerback right before our eyes.
You're right.
I truly believe that in 5 years, we look back on this era of Bengals defense, and we'll look at Cam Taylor-Britt and we'll say that's our best defensive player. And that's Logan Wilson on the team. That's Trey Hendrickson on the team. We've got great players. But I think Cam Taylor-Britt is going to blossom into one of the league's premier defensive backs. And he missed some plays yesterday. Don't get me wrong. He's going up on an island against DK Metcalf and all the things that Cam Taylor-Britt did yesterday. But so he wasn't perfect, but he's still just a stud. This offense, it's troubling. And I know everyone the naysayers of Bengals Nation will go and say Joe Burrow isn't up to snuff, and I've sat here and I've defended him. I'm running out. I truly am. I'm running out of excuses for Joe Burrow, because you could say he was hurt. And then last week he looked great, moving around the pocket. This week he had that one escape where it was incredible, but he's seemingly just missing throws, and it's becoming a little troubling. It truly is becoming a little troubling seeing this offense not fire on the cylinders that we've seen it. I don't know what it is. Only 4 first downs. Only 4 first downs after the first 2 drives yesterday. Only 4 of them. That's terrible.
That's damn near impossible to do.
Yeah, in 3 quarters of play, only 4 first downs.
It's impossible, almost.
It's almost impossible for any team in the NFL.
That's what I mean.
It's seemingly impossible when you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and the lot of them, right? It doesn't make any sense. Quick shout out though. So me and Elliot got to go into the Betfred suite yesterday.
That's right.
We met a member.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that later.
Well, we met a member of Nut Cutter Nation in the suite yesterday, who was the king of Cincy. Betfred has a promotion where they give you, if you opt in, you get a $5,000 bet. Nut Cutter Nation's very own AJ Worse.
No kidding.
AJ
He was there.
Worse.
Was AJ in the chat today? I haven't seen him.
Was the king of Cincy yesterday.
I haven't seen him.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was fun. I have this thing where, and Reed and I go back and forth on this. Basically, I think it matters how you look when you win games. I do. I think it matters.
I'll peel it back. That's fair.
I think it matters how you look. I'm not saying style points are important. I don't care if you win 42-0. I think it matters the fashion in which you win a football game. For the past 6 weeks now, the Bengals just haven't looked good winning football games, and that's a fact. Again, people are going to get mad at me. The 3 wins we have, even the Cardinals win, that wasn't like a pretty win. You had a pick 6 after getting shut down on 4th and 1 that helped you really capitalize a victory, but it's against a bad team. The Bengals are fun, right? This is a fun team. I think the offense is still going to find their groove. At some point in this season, they are too good. They are too talented. They have too many weapons on that offensive front to not score points. But they're not doing it yet, and it's still concerning at this point. I think at this right now, if the Bengals continue this trend, I have a hard time seeing them make the playoffs. But on the other side of the coin, they're 3-3. After a disastrous start, they are 3-3.
Yep.
They fought all the way back. And going into the bye at 3-3, we might as well be 6-0. That's how good that win yesterday feels. And it was one of the ugliest wins I've ever seen. Truly.
Yeah.
But being 3-3, Joe Burrow is still not looking great throwing-wise. Tom was mentioning some stats earlier about Joe Burrow's yards per attempt, yards per completion.
Yep.
It's not good. It's
lowest in the league.
Lowest in the league.
By a significant – they're the only team where that number starts with a 5.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. When you have guys like T. Higgins who have – I know he's been dealing with an injury, but he underperformed yesterday, caught a pass. I mean, Jamar Chase has been really our guiding light receiving-wise and really offensively. If we don't have Jamar Chase, we don't win football games. So shout out to him. But, yeah, right now we're 3-3. The vibes are still high. I know they don't look good. The Bengals do not look like a Super Bowl contender. My biggest concern is they don't play in unison. The offense and the defense, it seems like when the defense plays good, offense plays terrible. When the offense plays good, defense plays terrible. You have a good first half. You have a horrible second half. You start out slow. You come out hot in the second. It's just never a complete game with them. It's just never a complete game. And maybe that's how the NFL is. Maybe it's rare to play complete games. But I look at the Kansas City Chiefs, and I look at teams like that. It just seems like they're always playing high at a high level every quarter. Every drive they have, they seem to be in unison.
Yeah,
and right now the Bengals aren't doing that, and that's my biggest concern.
The thing is, and Elliot brings up really good points about how it does matter how you look, because right now this team doesn't look like the Super Bowl contenders or even AFC contenders that we thought they were. But at the end of the day, they are winning. After the 0-2 start, we looked at the 4-game stretch that they were about to embark on.
Yep.
And we said, we got a banged-up Joe Burrow. We don't even know if Joe Burrow's going to play against the Rams, yada, yada, yada. If we can get to 500 on these next 4 games against the Rams, Titans, Cardinals, and Seahawks, we'll feel really good. And they did just that. It didn't look great, but they got back to 500 going 3-1 over that 4-game stretch.
Everything, all you guys just said is spot on. I mean, they are 3-3, and I think everybody and his brother, based on the things you talked about and that we know about, when they started 0-2, if you'd have said they're going to be 3-3, you'd say sign me up.
Right.
Because that means they're 3-1 in their next 4 games in the run.
Yeah, and I would, we looked at the schedule last year or during the summer.
Right.
Sorry, and we were like, man, that's an early bye week. It couldn't have come any sooner.
No doubt.
Couldn't have come any sooner. Now they've got 2 weeks to prepare for a top dog in the NFC, which who knows what that looks like now with the injuries that they sustained.
Yep.
But, man, what better timing to get Joe fully healthy if he wasn't already, to be able to work out any kinks that they have, to finally be able to have practices without having to prep for a team just to get some chemistry down. I mean, I'm expecting a lot coming out of the bye week. I really am. They got to be better than they were the last 6 weeks. They just have to be.
You're right. I mean, it could not come at a better spot. We got back to 500, and we're going to embark on maybe it's certainly the toughest 2-game stretch that we'll play all season long, going to San Francisco, playing them, and then coming home on Sunday Night Football against the Bills. Those are going to be 2 tough games that, I mean, we'll be tickled pink if we walk away 1-1 out of those 2 games.
Well, yeah, and there's no doubt. I mean, although I got to tell you, everybody's talking all about parity in the NFL, and it really is amazing how some of these teams, or the whole league, anybody can get beat. I mean, the Dolphins go 1 week from scoring 70, and then they get embarrassed by Buffalo, right? They score 20.
Correct.
Buffalo was lucky to win last night. I still cannot believe the Bills were shut out for 3 quarters against the Giants. They score 14 points in the 4th quarter. And did you see how this game ended? Now, this is the play. The guy's being held. All right, so back it up a second. Let me set this up for those of you that didn't stay up late last night. Okay? The Giants are taking the ball down the field. They throw it into the end zone. It's flagged as time expires for pass interference against the Bills. The game cannot end on a defensive penalty. Okay? So, they're given one more snap. The ball is placed at the 1-yard line. There is no time left on the clock. So, it doesn't matter whether you run it or throw it. This is it. You got one shot and the game is over. Well, clearly, the receiver here in the slot is held. How they miss that, I can't get it. But more importantly, you've had Saquon Barkley. Look at that holding in the end zone with the ball in the air. You've had Saquon Barkley, who's run for nearly 100 yards on the team. You don't have your starting quarterback in Daniel Jones. Tyrod Taylor takes him down the field on that last drive. Barkley is your best player. Fellas, how at the 1-yard line are they not turning around and handing the ball off to Saquon Barkley? And it comes down to this simple question, okay? And I'm not saying I'm right. Maybe you're right. Who would you rather, if you're a Giants fan, if you took a poll of 1,000 Giants fans and you said, okay, we got one play to run from the 1-yard line, and we're putting the game and the ball in the hands of A, Saquon Barkley, B, Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, I watched the entire game yesterday, literally from start to finish. That football game stunk. It stunk out loud. It got good at the end because it was close, but it was a terrible football game. Saquon Barkley had a chance at the end of the first half. There was 14 seconds left. Giants didn't have a timeout. Same exact scenario. They said, you know what, we're going to give it to our star. 14 seconds left. We don't have a timeout. We're going to risk not running another play after it. Ran it with Saquon. Stuffed. End of the half, no points. I imagine that had something to do with it. Saquon yesterday also, the stats are a little bit misleading because at one point he had 15 carries for 15 yards. He was abysmal for 3 quarters of that football game.
He was.
He came in the 4th quarter. He started he made a couple really big long runs. It helped boost.
Yeah, he had the 34-yard run, and yeah.
It helped boost an otherwise abysmal game by him.
Yes.
So those two factors, I imagine, came into play. You have one untimed down. That's to me when I agree with you wholeheartedly. Not to mention I also had money on Saquon anytime touchdown score. Would have loved that to hit. But I think they saw it all game where Saquon just wasn't getting up the middle on those on a play like that. You saw it right before the half. I don't think they were going to do it. I think it was going to be a pass the whole way through. It didn't work. It stunk. They should have gotten another down. Obviously, it's not how sports work. It's not how life works. Sometimes you just lose. You get the raw end of the deal. But I actually don't hate the play call. It's not.
No,
like,
I didn't hate the play call.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I didn't hate the play call. If the guy's not holding him, that looks like a touchdown. Waller's like 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", whatever he is there. So, I mean, yeah, not a bad play call.
I just think with what happened in that game, if you watch the first 3 quarters of that game, Saquon Barkley looked just horrible. I mean, he looked horrible. So, yes, he's your star. Yes, he should have the ball in his hands over Tyrod Taylor. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in that current situation, you were gifted an extra play after a pass interference call, untimed down. I think they made the right call. I can't say they made the right call because they lost it, but I would have done the same thing. I would have thrown it there.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw, Elliot, the penalty that was called on the Giants against Josh Allen for roughing the passer.
Yeah, I saw that too.
So that's where I think a lot of people have issues, is just the officiating was terrible that game. I mean, those are 2 huge plays that changed the entire outlook of this game. I mean, they should get another chance. They should get another chance to score there. And you're at the half-yard line.
Yeah.
It gives you more incentive to run the ball more than ever there. Hand it off to Saquon, or just go for the tush push or whatever.
That's right.
And maybe we have a different ball game. But yeah, I mean, that play, that final play was very. It sucks. It sucks that it came down to that. It should never have to come down to that for any team, but it did, and the whole world saw it, and it's just unfortunate. Very unfortunate for the Giants.
And there's been a couple of those roughing the passer calls. I know that's the way the league's going, player safety. I understand it. But at some point you do take away what football is, and it's a violent game. You're going to get hit. I just don't get it. NFL officiating needs to be better. I'm not going to sit up here and blame the refs. It's almost an impossible job to be an NFL ref.
It is.
It really is. There's going to be a missed call every single down of
They're
football.
just too big, too strong, too fast.
It would
And
be
you're asking 50-year, 40-year-old men to keep pace up with some of that stuff. You just can't.
4 referees that are 10 feet away from a play. It's not going to work. But it seems to me like some of these the Bengals had a terrible roughing the passer called on them.
DJ Reader.
Although
Although I do think Charles Davis did a beautiful job of explaining that yesterday, of how Reader would have avoided. I don't know if you guys remember his analysis of that. But Reader, I mean, he's a 320-pound man, right?
Yeah.
And he's running, and he's one step away from the quarterback. And Davis pointed out, which I thought was right on the money, if he would have just almost, instead of wrapping his arms around the guy and trying to run through him, that officials just want to see you sort of peel off to one side or the other with that last step. If you bump the guy and you knock him on his tail, they don't flag you. But he ran through Geno Smith and just drove him right in the ground. And again, I wouldn't have called it, but that was a point that was made, and I think it's a fair point.
It's a fair point. My issue with it is that it's a lot easier said than done.
Right.
When you're running full speed, your mindset is, I just need to get to the quarterback. And then halfway through it, you're like, oh, wait, let me turn over, make sure the quarterback doesn't die. Like the mind doesn't work like that. You can't comprehend it when you're an NFL player trying to do it. And I get it. The rules say what they say. You have to try to do it. But these are professional athletes that have been trained their whole lives to do exactly
That's
what
right.
he did correctly. He did it correctly. And that's the part I just don't get. He sacked Geno Smith, or he got to Geno Smith perfectly. And they called it roughing the passer. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Mr. Mo just put in the chat here that, the form there, that you got to keep running through them. It's so hard, as Elliot said. It's so hard to to stop on a dime
It is.
when you're trying to get to the quarterback. And luckily there's not a lot of quarterbacks in the league that can pump fake it like Peyton Manning used to do. But the pump fake and you just
That's right.
rock away. I mean, it's almost like these rules are becoming. And I know they're designed to create more offense. They're designed to help the offensive side of the ball. But are we going too far with them in some instances?
I would also argue, too, that he didn't even really put his full body weight on him either. I mean, he tackled him and his head was in his stomach. It'd be one thing if his entire body, it was like 1-for-1. But it was like, he tackled him in the legs. It wasn't like he put his full body weight on him. I thought it was a lame call. I mean, you're going to get calls your way one way or another, but officiating in the NFL has been abysmal. Also, what's been really abysmal, this was the worst week in NFL scoring-wise in a very long time. Only 46
a lot of points, really.
Only 46 touchdowants offensively this
How about
week.
that?
Well,
There's only a couple teams on bye weeks.
Well,
and
there's some high-power teams. I mean, you brought up earlier about Kansas City. Their offense has been very mediocre most of this year.
Yeah.
Now, they've had some
Certainly
guys
missing some
banged up.
arms.
Everybody has.
Right.
But, I mean, the three teams that you thought when this season started were going to go out and pile up some points, at least in the AFC, would have been the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Bills. Mm-hmm. And right now, the fan bases, I'm sure, in those other cities are asking the same thing. I mean, yeah, Buffalo won like the Bengals won. Buffalo won ugly. The Bengals won ugly. The Chiefs won ugly against a terrible Denver team and were able to do very little on offense. But we'll talk more about that. We have Kyle Caskey coming up. Look, weather's a big part of your day. Elliot, are we ready to go?
I am ready to roll, Tom. Hey, everybody. It's time for the weather. Listen, it's chilly. I don't need to tell that to you. You know it's going to be cold. We're at the part of the season in fall where that's incredible. That door, that's incredible. I'm not going to lie. You can't see what's happening, but I wish you could. Listen, it's cold outside. Going to wear a sweatshirt. I'm wearing a sweatshirt under this sports jacket. Not a sport jacket. I guess it's just a regular jacket. Either way, we know what it is. Today, the high, I believe, is 60 degrees. The high is 60 degrees. The low, like 45 degrees. Again, everybody knows the bit by now. Just check your phone. You're going to scroll through the day. You're going to see all the things, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. Precipitation, low. No rain today. Even though it did rain in the morning, it's not going to rain the rest of the day. That's a promise. That's a guarantee. Not going to rain. If you have to bet on one thing, bet on this. No rain, minus 132. That's your odds. Betfred Sportsbook, the greatest sportsbook known to man. Other than that, listen, it's fall weather. This is the best time of the year. I had a campfire this weekend. I was at a campfire on Saturday. It's just you sit with your friends. You're around the campfire. It's a little nipply. It's a little cold, but you're sitting around the fire. Everybody's got a blanket. Everybody's singing songs. You have a cold drink in your hand, and we're going to get through it. I love this. I love this weather. It's better than 95 degrees, and you're sweating your ass off. This is so much better. So everybody, relax. 60 degrees high, 40 degrees low, vice versa. Give or take a couple, like 5 degrees there. I don't really know. I don't care either. But that's it. Ronald Reagan?
Well, I walked outside and it was cold. I hate the Ronald Reagan bit. I don't get why you do that.
All right, give it back to me. Listen, I only do the Ronald Reagan bit because, quite frankly, I just gave it to him, and then ever since then, he just has to act like he knows like what to do with it, and he just doesn't. He just doesn't know what to do. So other than that, that's it for the weather. You can tune into your local news tonight and find out more about the weather if you really want to know.
This weather's terrible.
What was that?
This weather's terrible.
This weather's great.
Fall,
see, now you're wrong.
You fall fans, this is terrible. This makes me sad.
No.
This makes me sad. I go outside, it's gray.
I love how the clouds
it's
appear
cold,
every time I'm on.
It's wet. This is terrible. This is the best you got, fall?
No, this is great weather. Type in the chat. If you're on the chat right now, do you like this weather or do you not like it? I love this weather. This is my favorite time of the year, hoodie season. My guy Everett in the chat knows it. Everybody, you can wear a hoodie every day of the week. I have over 100 hoodies. I'm going to wear them all. And that's that. I just love it. I just love it. That's all. Weather. Tune into the local news if you really want to hear more about it. You don't, because I just told you everything you need to know. But if you do, go do that. Casey, over to you.
Well, you can bring it over here. Bring it over here.
Or Ronald Reagan. Sorry. Ronald Reagan to you.
Kermit the Frog. I got a Kermit. I can't do Ronald. I can do Kermit. I mean, I could try a Bill. What do you want from me? What do you want from me? I don't get the Ronald Reagan. Bring it back to Casey.
All right, time for the ad reads because that's everyone's favorite part of the 11 o'clock hour. The Bengals Report brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
Productivity!
like the dynamic range there, guys. Visit Encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. Let me tell you about this water right here. Pawnee Water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio, uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. Not supporting. We're not supporting
Efficiency and
anymore.
productivity.
The result is a healthy alkaline water, also known as the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNI water.com to see where you can buy this great tasting water. And let me tell you, I love the pH of this water. It's not a 7. It's not a 9. It's a perfect 8.
You
Goes
tested
down-
it.
Huh?
You tested that water.
I did test the water. I mean, the label right here, it says an 8. It's truly an 8. It's literally not a 9. Like, it's an actual 8. No 7, 8.
No
Reed,
seven-
what do you
no
like about
sevens,
this?
like Elliot's weekends. I love.
What was that?
He gets
Like
eight.
Elliot's
Eights.
weekends.
Elliot gets 8s. He doesn't get 7s. 8s.
What's that mean?
I don't know.
What does it mean?
I'm
You
not
know
gonna
what it
explain
means,
it.
Elliot. What does it
Reed,
mean?
I know what it means. I'm not going to say it because Reed walked himself into it. So Reed, you're going to have to walk
Reed, what
yourself
does that
back out of
mean?
it.
Natural limestone filtration is how you get the best tasting water in the world, Tom. They do it right. I mean, it's bottled here. It's sourced here in Hamilton, Ohio. It's the best tasting water in the world. It's the natural limestone filtration for me.
For me, it's the smoothness. It goes down the gullet nice and easy. So you're going to go over to Pawnee. You're going to get your water. It's the best tasting water in the world, obviously. Natural limestone filtration, obviously. It's just good. It's just really good. That's all there is to it. Any other water, terrible. This is the water you have to drink. And the bottle's cool. Legitimately, this is one of the cooler bottles that a water brand could have.
We got a super chat. Casey,
I was
we
going
have
to
two
say,
super-
I was gonna say
super
we
chats.
got 3 super chats.
Three
that
super
need to
chats.
get
We do.
through.
All
when
right,
we get
let's
to
see
Mr.
him.
Mo,
Put
I
him up.
got something
Let's
to
go
say.
to Mr. Mo here.
Put him up. What's he saying?
There's a reason seasonal depression is a thing in fall, winter, and
right.
not summer. Makes sense that most negative person at Chatterbox is a fall truther.
Is that you?
I think he's talking about me being the most negative person at Chatterbox Sports. Is he talking about me? Because
I think no, he's talking about me.
okay, well, yeah, that makes
let's
sense.
talk about
Okay,
that.
He
I was
says
gonna
there's
say me.
seasonal-
Why
there's
are
a-
you? What makes you a truther? Connect this for me. Help me here.
Well, when I was doing the weather, I said that fall is the best weather in my opinion. I love the fall. It's football season. It
Right.
feels good. You're wearing
Love it.
hoodies. You're
Love
by the
it.
campfire.
Love
You're
it.
with your friends.
Love it.
But Mr. Mo apparently disagrees. He says there's seasonal depression for fall and winter, and I'm a negative person because of it. So, Mr. Mo, I politely disagree. Let's catch a bonfire sometime. Let's just go to a bonfire, and I'll show you how it's done.
Ricky Logan, Cam Taylor Britt is elite. That's
Damn
right.
right he is.
He's looking
And
good.
then
Right he is.
the last super chat we have here from Drew Garrison, a $10 super chat. Kyle Shanahan is now 1-10 against Jim Schwartz defenses and has never scored over 20 on him. I hate Cleveland, but Schwartz has made them a real threat. P.S. Elliott is my hero.
So how about that?
Thanks,
we
Drew.
go from Elliot being a truther and getting beaten down to being a hero.
I think you're a hero. Listen, Tom, and speaking of Elliot being a hero, I gotta pump up my boy Elliot. So Saturday, I mentioned that I worked all week, and we all work a lot here at Chatterbox. But Saturday morning, we got to go set up a stage. Someone's renting out our stage down there in Clifton. Me and Elliot go there at 7 a.m., and I wanted Elliot to enjoy his Saturday. I said, hey, we got to tear this thing down at 8:30 p.m. So we got to come back Saturday night. Kind of ruins your whole day. I was like, Elliot, enjoy your Saturday. I got this. I'll do this all myself. Would have been a lot of work. I get there at 8:30, and my boy Elliot, even though I told him not once, not twice, 3, 4, maybe even 5 times, I said, don't come, enjoy your Saturday. Don't come, enjoy your Saturday. My boy is sweating. He's wet. He's just hauling this stage, tearing this stage down. It was the highlight of my weekend, Tom, because I fully thought I was going to have to tear this thing down myself, and I wanted it that way. And my boy Elliot showed up. He was a hero.
Yeah, listen, we're team players here at Chatterbox. Casey had to work Sunday. I'm not going to drag Casey into it. Reed works his tail off for Chatterbox. I'm not going to let my guy go down there in misery, in the rain, in the cold. and deal with all that by himself. So I went down and we had ourselves a little fun time. I regret nothing. I love to do it. I did hurt if anybody saw on Twitter, I did hurt my middle finger pretty bad though.
Yeah, you did.
You could almost see it on the camera there.
How'd you do that?
I was putting away some of the equipment and it got me right in the middle finger. It was a big bruise, big scrape.
I'm glad you made it to work today.
Thank you.
Yep.
I was proud of myself for getting here, honestly.
Tom, we got 10 minutes till Kyle Caskey. Do we want to do our What Did I Miss?
Yes.
Let's do What Did I Miss?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a segment we're doing each and every Monday. Maybe something that you missed that occurred in an NFL game. You can't watch them all. I guess you can. All right, here we go. Casey, you want to start with you?
What did you all miss?
Or do you have anything?
Well, I did have something. I thought since we were almost at Caskey, I just closed out of everything on the thing here, but that's okay. That's all right. What did you miss?
If we get to a couple of them now, we bring in Kyle, then we can get back to the rest of them.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's start with yours.
Yeah, mine, for me, I'm just going to point out a couple different things that happened. First off, Notre Dame absolutely just destroyed Caleb Williams. What a fraud that he is.
Oh, come
Stinks.
on. I
He's
mean,
not a
come on.
Stinks.
Good Lord.
And
you can
you know
call a
what?
lot of people a fraud. You can't call Caleb Williams a fraud.
Fraud.
Come on.
He threw 3 picks.
He did. And he
That's
has one of the
horrible.
worst offensive lines in the country, and everybody knew that going into the game. But go ahead.
Horrible. He's terrible. Then, also, all the AFC teams won. It's like the NFC kind of stinks a little bit, doesn't it? Just a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, Casey. Yeah, let's do what did I miss? If you got listen, I heard for weeks on weeks that the 49ers and the Eagles are the best teams in the NFL. And I get it. It's any given Sunday. The NFL, bad teams or really good teams lose sometimes. That's why we've only had one undefeated team to go all the way through the postseason, and then the Patriots almost made it all the way through. That's why it's a tough league. Any given Sunday, any team can win. But the 49ers lost to the Browns and a backup quarterback.
Journeyman quarterback. XFL quarterback.
Right. And then the Eagles go and they lose to the Jets, who lost their quarterback back in week 1 to a backup quarterback. So I guess what I'm saying is everyone laughed at me last week when we did the power rankings and I didn't have the 49ers or the Eagles at number 1. And you can still laugh at me for having the Chiefs be the number 1 team in the league. I think they are. I just think they are. And
Nobody laughs at that.
I think a lot of people do, Tom. I think a lot of people underestimate the Chiefs right now because – listen, everyone's like, oh, their offense doesn't look great. They're 5-1 in their defense. Do they not get credit for their defense?
I agree with you.
And on their offensive side, they have the best quarterback in the league, and they have the best coach in the league. I don't understand. I get that we're rivals with the Chiefs right now because of what has happened over the past 2 years. I just am in the camp that we should respect them because for what they've done. They made it to the AFC Championship game 5 straight years. They're the reigning Super Bowl champs, yada, yada, yada. But the NFC, I said before the season, I said last week that the NFC is simply not as good as the AFC. And I think that I got validated a little bit this weekend. I certainly think that I got validated a little bit this weekend. I know there was injuries. I know it was a rainy game up in Cleveland, and the Bengals already shown what that's like. But I just have a hard time believing that the NFC as a whole conference is anywhere close to as competitive as the AFC.
Okay.
That's fair. My argument to that would be if you're going to say any given Sunday for the Bengals, every game's a fight, no matter who you're playing. If you're going to say that with the Bengals, you have to say it with everybody. Those teams are damn good. They had one bad week in the NFL.
Right.
I
still think. Yeah. Let me specify. These teams are still going to win 13, 14 games in the NFL this year. They're still going to win a playoff game more than likely. And I think if we all had to put money on what 2 teams are going to be in the NFC Championship game, I think we'd all be out of our mind to not put the Eagles and the 49ers in the
I'm not
NFC
so sure about that yet. Not so sure about that yet.
Who else you like in the
I
NFC?
tell you, I am.
Don't say Detroit.
I'm impressed.
Ugh,
I'm impressed by the Battling Lions, the fighting Chris Spielmans, as
that
I
makes
call
me
them.
sick.
I mean,
They look good, Tom. You can't.
They
deny
look good.
Why did
They didn't have a lot of success for the first time against on the ground yesterday against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's got a very good defense.
Yeah, they do.
They do. They have an excellent defense. But their quarterback's playing his tail off, and their defense gets after the opposing quarterbacks. Baker was having a hell of a year. I know it was only 4 games in, and I know it's Baker Mayfield, but Detroit gets after people now.
Aiden Hutchinson's
They've
the
got
real
some
deal.
players on that team.
Why did people give up on Jared Goff so young?
Well,
He's
look,
28 years old.
I know, but there was a while there, you got to admit, where he did not look very good. I mean,
Took
come
a team
on.
to the Super Bowl, Tom.
I'm not debating that. I understand he did. But then after that, he went through like a year and a half where he – now, how much he was surrounded by or with, look, you can always make that point for everybody. But I tell you, they're pretty doggone good. They're pretty good. The Lions.
They play in a bad division, too. They play in a very
Yes,
bad
they
division.
do. There are a lot of W's in that division.
Right. The Vikings aren't very good. The Packers aren't very good. And the Bears obviously aren't very good.
Yes.
So.
Yep. My what did I miss? Let's see if I got that. Boom. Shank you very much. Listen.
Shank you?
Shank you very much. I don't know if you watched the 49ers-Browns game.
I did.
So I was obviously at the Bengals game. I couldn't watch a ton of it, but as most people know, I'm a degenerate gambler. Jake Moody comes out for a 41-yard
Michigan man. A Michigan man.
A Michigan man, 41 yards. Jake Moody, who's had a pretty good season up until today.
A Michigan man.
He missed a 50-yarder, and he missed now a 41-yarder. Maybe the easiest chip shot I've ever seen. Didn't make it. Lost the game. Reed told me about this earlier in the week last week. He's like, you know what? Plus 4.5. This is a trap line. This is a trap game. Reed sniffed this game out.
Second I saw it.
The second he saw it. I said, Reed, wait a minute. Deshaun Watson's out. That's why the spread's like that. So, or Deshaun Watson's still playing. That's why it's like that. He's going to be out. Deshaun Watson was out. 9.5 points was the adjusted spread for that. They still blow it. It was still a trap.
Gambling's so funny because I loved the Browns at 4.5, and then the line got moved to 9.5, and I hated it. Like they were giving me 5 extra points, and I just didn't take it.
That dude's whole family was there watching that.
Really?
Moody. His whole family was there.
Oh man.
How were the Michigan punter and field goal kicker looking?
Yeah, Brad Robbins, not great either.
Listen, Tom. Brad Robbins is the reason.
Michigan men
is the reason we win ball games. Brad we got to get that.
He was better yesterday.
Brad, I can't even get through this bit. Brad Robbins, we get him going early and often, and we win ball games.
That's right, Tom.
You know, I've been tweeting a lot about Drew Sample, Tom, because I think it's funny to talk about Drew Sample because he's played in the league for 5 years as a tight end and has 1 touchdown. He's played in the league for 5 years and has about 400 receiving yards. When he catches a pass this year, the Bengals are 2-1.
Yes.
Drew Sample is the secret to success in Cincinnati,
right.
Tom. So Tyreek Hill, who was our fourth target, we'll notch him down to like 6th after you include Drew Sample. I'd rather have Drew Sample than Tyreek Hill.
Might be right. According to Casey anyway. Is Kyle ready to go?
He is ready.
All right, well, it's great. We talked about him last week. Long time, both in the NFL and college. Kyle Kasky, a coach. We saw him with the Bengals. 18 years a coach in the NFL or major college football. 11 years with the Bengals. 5 seasons as running backs coach. He's coaching high school football now down in Louisiana where he makes his home. Kyle, good morning. How are you on this Monday?
Good morning. I'm good. I threw a little thing behind me here just to, remind the people watching us today. So, I'm all about the marketing.
Thank you very much. Tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, Chatterbox Clicker with Kyle Kasky right here on Chatterbox Sports. Tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. Just go to YouTube and you'll find it there. So, listen, we've been sitting here today. I've been sitting here today. And I know you're going to walk us through some plays and you're going to walk us through some good plays the Bengals made. So I tell you what, in the spirit of being positive, let's start with some of the good things you saw yesterday from the Bengals offense. Because I could count them on one hand, but please go ahead.
All right. So, Casey, I believe you've got some video here, but I'd say this. With the Bengals offense, the problem is they're inconsistent right now. And when they're good, they're on and they're good. Now, there was a lot of plays that you saw in the previous week that Burrow was making to Chase and the back shoulders and the quick passes. And there was a lot of passes yesterday that were behind receivers. The back shoulders were not being thrown correctly. But I'll tell you what, though, man, when he's on here, though. So right here, this is actually a free play. So what they're doing, Seattle jumps off sides here. So they snap the ball. I want you to watch, though, Joe Mixon actually blocks the D end right here. But they end up throwing that back shoulder right there to Chase. Now, this one, that was a good one, but there were like 2 or 3. One of them, Chase broke off. I don't know if he was meaning to convert it to a go, and there was another one that I believe, it looked like Burrow was trying to throw a back shoulder, and Chase thought he was going over the top. So there was a lot of miscommunication yesterday with that. But this is what Burrow's good at, though. Burrow's good at figuring out how to change protections or whatever. But this is a free play, so when he jumps, really it should be DN. But Joe Mixon does a good job of just getting in the way enough for him to get that playoff. So, they're making up for, obviously the issues they're having up front. And Orlando Brown got hurt yesterday, so that doesn't help out any. And the kid that came in held his own, for what he could do. But
Cody Ford. Cody Ford.
Yeah, but when you have him and Volson next to each other, that's a little bit of an issue on the left side right now, if that's what it's going to be. Because obviously Volson is what he is. You kind of bookended him, and now you've got a guy who doesn't have a lot of playing experience coming in behind over to his left, and that could be an issue. But again, you want to talk about some positives. I'd love to say something about the run game, but they couldn't get anything going because Seattle plays those safeties so low in the box, and they couldn't get past the safety level even when they got past the first level. And there's some times where I think they were mistargeted, and what I mean by that is just like it looked like a linebacker ran out with a motion or whatever it is, but a safety came back in, but they didn't recount the safety as being a box player to block on the run, and those guys were unblocked at times, and those are some issues they got to figure out and get cleaned up.
Okay, there. I know you have a couple other plays over there, Casey, right? That Kyle's going to walk through for us. Okay, please continue on.
Yeah. All right, so this is obviously down here. This is is it Yoshivas? Is that how you say his name?
Yep.
I butchered that name big time a couple.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
But if you watch this, they're actually running they're running like they're running their duo play, and they were hoping to get him to pop over the top of that. Can you rewind that, Casey, to the beginning of the play here? You can see they're actually trying to run they're showing a run play, and they're trying to pop him over the top, but he gets held right here, and they were just trying to throw that little pop pass. But the good thing is watch Burrow just stay calm and just kind of float over. And again, I think that's something that you didn't see in the first few weeks, and there's no excuse now for what they're doing. So they're trying to show 100% show run here, and they're trying to get him over the top right there. And they kind of had him. It took forever because they did hold him off the line. That's what that flag was for. They called holding on that. That's what that holding got called for. So
you know what I liked about there, Kyle? Not only the fact that I think so often we overlook a player's IQ in football, right? And how vitally important that is. You've forgotten more about that than I know. But that move help me with a pronunciation, Casey.
Yoshivas?
Yoshivas. Okay. The thing, if you look at that play, how many times do we see the wide receiver being in the spot after he was held? So he's sitting there open and recognizing that Burrow's going to have to roll. But they'll go down the back edge of the end zone rather than what he did. He had the awareness to step in front of the defender, which gave Burrow a clear, clean lane to throw him the ball. If he just goes to the back of the end zone along the back line back there, there's no way you get him the ball.
Yeah, and I think, too, he understood that this is where you talk about player IQ coming in. He was really the only receiver on that side. I know Mixon was kind of over there, but Mixon was in the blocking scheme, and the tight end was in the blocking scheme. But when it was all said and done, he was running over. Usually, if you're the only receiver and you're in a red zone scramble, you do need to go to the front pylon, and then hopefully somebody from the other side is going to the back pylon. So it's all about the spacing of the field. And for him to have that kind of awareness of like, hey, I'm the only guy over here right now, so I do need to do that. You hit it on the head. If he goes to the back pylon, everybody just comes up, just kind of falls in underneath him, and you get covered. But he found a way just to get right in front of everybody, and it's a good play. I think Chase does the same thing. If you watch him, especially last week on the Arizona game, they find ways of knowing where they're at. So I think there's some savvy to those guys.
Okay, and then we got one more play you want to talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay, what is this one?
So this is actually the touchdown to Tyler Boyd early in the game. So if you watch up top up here, they're going to bring two blitzers outside of Orlando Brown. Well, the quarterback's hot up there. Usually when you're throwing, like Joe Mixon's running a flat, usually he's the hot. But what he's saying here is when you have a blitzer and a free runner, so that second guy outside of Orlando Brown is free. There's nobody blocking him. It's 5-man protection. that somebody behind there. Usually, if he's blitzing, sorry, I got a loud speaker in here. Hold on just a second.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
You're at school right now, right? You're in the coach's office right now.
Hey, you know what? Hey, it's just part of life right now. But no,
That's
so
right.
what I was gonna say is that when he has a guy that's blitzing and he's free, usually the coverage over there is trying to get over there. So if you watch the coverage here, the coverage stays back. The guy covering Tyler Boyd stays back a little bit, and he leaves that kind of hole in there. You see how he's back behind him, and he finds that hole because the guy went to the flat. If that defender wouldn't have run to the flat with the running back, he would have thrown to the running back. But the second that guy took off, that safety took off to the flat, he knew right now I'm going to hit Tyler Boyd right behind him. And that's knowing protections. If more quarterbacks would spend more time learning protections, it would open the game up for them tremendously, because that's where a lot of your big plays can happen. I'll tell you this, the great quarterbacks, like when I was with Matthew Stafford, I know they wanted zero blitz. They wanted some hot protections, because if it was hot, then they've got people one-on-one across the border. They've got somebody running open that they can get the ball to, and it becomes a kickoff return. So that was good of Burrow knowing that. And he did it later in the game too, in just a normal down situation.
All right, Kyle. Now we've seen the good. Okay, but now I got to start asking you about really what's going on here. And I'm not saying this to be a wise guy. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be cute. No, nothing. Okay, but this team is spending, and I don't know, and I'll find out today. They have to be spending in the top 4 or 5 among all teams in the NFL the most amount of money on their offensive line. Okay, Jonah was a number 1 pick. He's got this guaranteed deal. He moves over to right tackle. You got free agents at right guard and at center. So you're going to spend a little bit more money there. They got a young player in Bolson, doesn't cost them much. They have the highest paid offensive lineman in football at left tackle. How in the world does this team continue week in and week out, Kyle, to not be able to run the football at all? Only the Raiders are averaging fewer rushing yards per game than the Cincinnati Bengals. How is that possible?
I think a question you might want to of then the rushing yardage is look at the average per carry and those kind of things, because right now they don't even hand the ball off as much as they probably should. And you go watch any normal team out there that's I say normal, any team that's like go look at San Francisco. I know they got beat this week, but go look at teams like that are putting up a lot of points. Go look at Miami, at the teams that are putting up a lot of points. They still run the ball quite a bit. Their run-pass ratio is a lot more balanced than what the Bengals is. The Bengals' run-pass ratio is usually pretty off balance. And it's been that way for a long time. It was kind of that way when I was there a little bit too. And, being a running back coach, I was well aware of it. But again, you've got to be able to get a flow going. And the thing about the run game, especially in the NFL, if you don't get a rhythm going with your linemen, and it's just like, okay, we're going to run the ball here and there, and I mean, it's mostly pass protection. You first off, you're getting those guys, and on defense, they're just penetrating straight up the field. And when you're getting penetrating linemen, they're rushing the passer half the time. That's hard. You got to get them off balance and make them think you're going to have to run the ball. It's like to run the ball. It's like the play action down there on the goal line. I mean, yeah, they're showing run, but it didn't look like run. And I mean, they're probably thinking they're going to pass the ball here anyway. So, again, I think it goes more to they've got to want to do it a little bit more than they're doing it. I think, too, is Jonah Williams probably isn't playing up to his potential right now and playing up to whatever the contract is. I see him getting beat inside a lot on pass protections, and he's doing the same thing in the run game. Like, pinches are hurting him. I think the two guys next to him, Karras and I'm losing my mind here.
Kappa.
Kappa, Karras and Kappa. So those two guys are actually pretty solid right there. Volson's holding his own as good as he can, but if you're gonna have a rotating door over at left tackle with this injury, hopefully it's not bad. That's gonna be a big time issue. So they're gonna need to figure out a way to run the ball, because if they're just passing the ball all the time and they've got that kind of stuff going on up front, you're opening up a can of worms that you really don't want to open up.
Well, we get a lot of people that ask this, and I mentioned you coach the offensive line in the NFL, you coached running backs in the NFL. Here were the Bengals. for a long, long time, longer than a decade. A lot of people ask the question, and I'm asking the question. To me, I'll preface the question by saying, to me, Mixon still looks like he's got some life left in his game, to me. Mm-hmm. Now, there's some other people that are saying, look, see if you can go get P-Rod. Bring him back. He ran the ball really, really well in this offense last year. Give Chase Brown some chances. Give Williams some chances. From what you've seen on tape, would it make any difference who the running back is at this point?
I think it makes a difference because I think Joe Mixon's way better than all those other guys, and that's where you can't go blaming him necessarily for running into some plays where there's no chance. I mean, they got to get the play started. And again, yesterday, like I said, that there was times where they actually got through the first level of defense, the linebackers and D-line, and then there's Adams and Diggs sitting there, and it's just kind of okay. Well, if that's the case, then they need to figure out a way to go get that guy blocked with a receiver or an RPO or some form of fashion to get them out of there. But that's why Seattle's been so good, is because they have those safeties that can come down and play like linebackers, and they were doing that yesterday. But again, I don't think it's Joe Mixon still has it. If you go watch Walker for Seattle from yesterday and some of the things he was doing, Joe Mixon does the same stuff, and everybody thinks Walker's this great back right now. But Mixon does the same stuff. It's just they were getting him started and giving him a little bit of an edge to kind of get moving, And it's like anytime you see Joe Mixon catch a pass in space, usually he gets pretty good yardage.
Yes, he does.
That's because they've guarded for him. And again, it's hard for a running back when penetration up on the front line, when that kills a play. There was a play where he was trying to push up in there, and he literally ran. He ended up running, and it was like old Cedric Benson stuff, and God rest his soul. But he used to run into the back of the lineman, but he would take the lineman with him for another 5 yards when he ran into the back of him, and that's kind of what he was doing yesterday. He was running some duo plays, and he was pounding up in there, but then he would just have to lower his shoulder on the back of his own lineman just to get him to move, and you kind of see that more than you see holes opening up for him right now.
All right, fellas, anything you want to run by Kyle before we let him get out of here today?
No, I don't have anything. I think he highlighted some of the things that the Bengals are doing well and some of the things that they're not doing well and need to improve on. So I've got no questions for Kyle. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's show.
Absolutely. That'll be at 9 o'clock.
I would say one last thing real quick about the defense. The defensive line is really, really playing at a high level right now. And that's one thing I think that needs to be highlighted, about what they're doing up front. Now, their secondary still has a couple coverage issues, but I'm telling you, man, that those front guys, and I talk about penetration, killing plays. Sam Hubbard and Hendrickson are just killing plays right now, just because, and they may not make the play, but they're killing the play. And I just want to make that point that those guys are playing at probably the highest level I've seen them play at.
I agree. I thought yesterday, and look, there might be other games statistically where he played better, but I think you could make an argument that Sam Hubbard, that might have been his best game in the last 2 years yesterday.
Yeah, and again, stats don't matter necessarily when you're talking about these things. They're creating havoc that's creating other guys' stats, but that's the thing that as a offensive coach, there's times like Aaron Donald doesn't make every play when you play him. J.J. Watt didn't make every play. T.J. Watt doesn't make every play. But I'll tell you what, though, they are game wreckers that will screw up everything else. So they may not get the stats that you're seeing, but they're the ones that are making it happen over on their side of the ball. And I think those two ends right now are really taking over that defense.
No doubt about it. Kyle, we thank you so much for your time, my friend. How'd you guys do over the weekend?
Oh, man, we played the number 4 team in the state, and we fumbled the ball twice, and we lost 21-14. So,
that's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we lost 14-7. So lost 14-7. We lost by 7, but it was like it was a rough go. We were moving the ball twice and just can't fumble the ball, man. Got hit from behind.
All right. Well, good luck this week.
All right, appreciate y'all.
All right, tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. You see it there right behind him. Chatterbox Clicker with Kyle Caskey. That'll be at 9 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow night. A lot of people love that show that are in the chat. They watch it all the time, and everybody's saying you can really learn a lot of football. And it is interesting for guys that are coaches that spend so much time with that clicker stuff and the little things of football you can learn.
Yeah, when so much of us that didn't play football, and no one in this room really played football. Me and Casey played like in junior high and stuff like that. But no, you watch the sport, right? But you don't understand the sport until someone with knowledge really breaks down what's going on, breaks down blocking schemes, breaks down what different defensive guys are trying to do. And Tom, you got a lot of that when you would talk to coaches when you were broadcasting. I mean, they would sometimes they'd walk you through, hey, this is what we're trying to do. And getting the 9 p.m. tomorrow, if you want to get a deeper understanding of the game or why the Bengals defensive line is playing so well, why the secondary is playing so well, and why the offense is stuttering at certain moments, you get a better understanding. And Kyle does a really, really nice job at breaking down the game and why we were successful in some things and not successful in others.
Yeah, I agree completely. And by the way, I played, if it shocks anybody, I didn't play a lick of downs in any football capacity whatsoever. I was way too short growing up, so I had no football genes in me. But as many people know around the city here, I was an all-city tennis player. So
he was good.
Can't speak to football. I can speak to tennis, though.
Tom, did you ever play football growing up?
Played it growing up until high school. Yeah.
And you switched over to soccer, right?
Switched over to soccer at that point.
So you didn't play soccer until high school?
I played both, yeah. You could get away with playing both in those days. Yeah, you could get away with playing both. And I wasn't any good at either one of them. But I loved playing football. I played center.
You played center?
Center. I loved it. I mean, absolutely loved it. I mean, that's where your genes catch up with you, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you're not so big anymore and the guys are getting big. But, man, I loved every second of it. You were in the play of every play.
Yeah.
Tom, were you a glass eater?
No, I wasn't good at anything. If that's a complimentary term,
yes,
then the answer would be not a chance. But I loved it. I loved it. Loved it. Loved when that nose tackled line up right against you, man. And
that's why you got that edge to you, Tom.
No, you got, I mean, our son's the same way. I mean, he was always a goalie, always that guy. You want to be right in the middle of all of it. So it's fun stuff.
Jacob says he wants to line up as a pass rusher against you when he comes back in
No,
town.
he doesn't.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
It's Jacob's
He's
birthday
bigger,
today.
I'm quicker. He's younger. I'm more of the Jason Kelsey savvy type.
Technician.
Just let him beat himself.
Technician.
By the way, I think today is Jacob's birthday.
It is.
It is.
It's happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Jacob.
Happy birthday, Jacob.
Leader of men.
Down in Alabama, turning that ship around.
Tell you what, don't sleep on Alabama.
They looked horrible.
Yeah, I know they did. They were leading 24-6, and they held off Arkansas, but don't sleep on them. This quarterback is starting to get better and better.
Milrow.
I mean, you never know. In that West, LSU, the fighting Brian Kellys, as we call them here.
Yeah, some of us do. Not me.
He doesn't.
You wish he was back here.
I don't wish Brian
Yes,
Kelly
you
was
do.
anywhere near
Yes, you
here.
do. If you right now could magically just all of a sudden, kind of like Moses, cast your staff to the feet of Pharaoh, right?
No.
And say, I have a chance to get Brian Kelly back as a head coach at UC. You take him in a heartbeat.
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
my God.
Satterfield's the guy.
My
Would you
God.
rather
Please
have
tell me you're not
Satterfield,
saying
listen.
no.
Listen.
Oh, my God.
Satterfield had a tough weekend. Both of his teams lost. Louisville lost. Everybody knows Louisville
He's coaching two teams.
Louisville is the team that Satterfield built. That whole roster is Satterfield. He's talking to the coach on the sideline while he's coaching us. He's coaching them at the same time. He had a tough go. To his credit, Emory Jones looks like one of the worst quarterbacks in the history of the sport.
Still a Heisman candidate.
Still a Heisman candidate. He's in the back end now. He's transitioned from top 3 to maybe bottom 200. But he's certainly still on the list, right? You would still have to give him the list. He was benched. I've never heard of the backup before. His name was Brady Lichtenberg. So shout out to Brady Lichtenberg.
Toledo.
Is that a Toledo guy?
I think he's Perrysburg, yeah.
How about that? Perrysburg. UC looks bad. I don't know if we transition from I don't want Brian Kelly.
That's totally fine.
Because UC looks atrocious. And here's the thing. Everybody's freaking out on X.com. Fire Satterfield. It's his first year. It's a roster turnover. Everybody knew this was going to be a bad year. They weren't winning the Big 12 this year. Everybody calm down. Satterfield's going to be fine. He's got a little bit of a leash. If he loses out, if it's straight up catastrophe for the rest of this season, I'll be a little concerned. I'd like them to win a couple games here. But right now, everybody's in panic mode. Don't panic. Everybody knew this was going to be a bad year. If we miss the Idaho Potato Bowl, I don't care. I really don't. I just don't care that much. So we're going to be okay. Next year, we're punting on this season. We're on to next season.
Before we move on, can I ask you? You said you don't want Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
Would you rather have Brian Kelly, Luke Fickell, or the guy that was like begging to be the head coach here, Deion Sanders, and UC just turned him down?
What a horrible bit that is.
You can have one. Who you taking?
I'd like
not even close. Who you're taking?
I'd like Deion Sanders. So that's not who you were taking.
Hell yeah.
I want Deion
love
Sanders.
Deion, but come on, Brian Kelly.
I think I'd take
that
Brian
guy.
Kelly.
We didn't talk about.
We didn't
talk about that game. Was that the most atrocious performance you've ever seen in the second half?
Are we done with the Deion stuff for the year?
The Colorado hype.
Now, somebody said in the chat today, and I don't know if this is true, so I'm going to ask you guys, and I only want your answer if you know definitively if this is true. Okay? Because if it's not, I want to completely ignore it. Somebody said in the chat that Shedeur Sanders was posting stuff on social media at halftime of that game. Is that true or false?
I believe it's true, but
You believe it's true?
I believe it's true, but here's the thing with that. I believe there's people who run those accounts, right? So Chatterbox Sports, there's not some guy named Chatterbox doing it. It's one of us running those accounts. The same way these celebrities have a social media manager.
Probably has a marketing,
So somebody was probably, and by the way, they shouldn't have been doing it. Whoever was responsible for it should have known better to do it. But yeah, I don't believe it was Shedeur Sanders tweeting. If it was him, that's tough.
I believe in Jacob. Jacob said it's confirmed.
It's confirmed that it wasn't him?
Jacob, no, saying that he was, that the tweets were legit.
It's somebody.
No, I know.
Someone posted.
No.
His account posted. We don't know who posted them.
It says it was his personal Instagram. So
there's no doubt there's somebody running that for the whole Sanders claim.
I would think
somebody's
so.
probably making a lot of money running it for Deion and Shedeur. He's a hell of a player.
He is. He's very good. He's damn good. But so again, I watched that whole game Friday night. Colorado games are fun because they never end until 3:30 in the morning.
That's right.
But we were watching the game. My buddies and I were playing poker. We were watching that game. It was 29-0 at the half. And we're like, all right, just for fun, should we just sprinkle a little money on Stanford? Should we just sprinkle a little bit? And we're like, nah, Deion's going to win this game by 60. Sure enough, they blew it. Colorado hype is dead. So
yeah, I'm done with it, Tom. I get why. Listen, he's such a popular figure. He's obviously great on TV. He's a great human being. Deion Sanders is. But man, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the Colorado hype. I never got it. I never understood why we were doing this. And hopefully it's done. Hopefully it's done at least for this year.
I have a hot take.
Let's hear it.
I think UC would be undefeated right now if Deion was running the program.
That's probably
I
true.
Really
and
do.
Shedeur Sanders would be the quarterback.
Well,
yeah.
Let's start with that.
Let's start with that. And then you have Travis Hunter.
Emory Jones was going to be the quarterback.
I still can't believe that UC just turned down Deion. Deion was like begging for the job.
This is such a bad shtick that Trace is elected. Deion Sanders was never going to be a part of the University of Cincinnati. And anybody who believes that is nonsensical.
He was on his hands and knees begging to be a UC Bearcat.
Yeah, that sounds like Deion.
That
sounds like Deion begging for a job.
He wanted to be a Bearcat. He was a Red. He wanted to be a Bengal. They turned him down. UC has just slapped him just Cincinnati in general has just slapped him in the face.
Should we let Deion be the coach of or the manager of the Reds?
Ooh. I would love that.
Some are saying.
I would love that. Deion's a people guy.
There's no doubt about that.
He cut every kid at Colorado. He cut him off the program. He's bringing Louis. He said he was bringing Louis Vuitton. He brought him, and now they just blown a 29-0.
Well, look, all I know is they got eyeballs on him, okay? And you got to create your brand. And that's what Deion's doing. Now, you can say, I'm sick of it. As you have said, Reed, you're sick of it. But the bottom line is he is branding this thing as a place you want to be and go play. Is that going on at UC? Not a chance. Is that going on a lot of places that may have thought about hiring Deion Sanders? Is it going on at Wisconsin right now? Not a chance. Dion, whether you like the whole thing or not, he is building a brand at Colorado football where everybody and his brother, who would not even consider a visit to Colorado, recruiting visit, over the last 20 years, all the kids are going to take that trip. They're going to take the trip. They might commit somewhere else, but they also might commit to Colorado. I mean, what this guy's doing is unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Okay, that's fair. Can we stop talking about him for this year, though? I'm fine. Everything you said is true. And I truly believe that Colorado, they couldn't be much worse, but it's truly going to be one of the premier, at least eyeballs, at least the most interesting football programs for the next decade.
Yes.
But can we stop talking about them this year? We'll get back. It's a story. The chapter's done. Close the book. We'll get back to them next year when they're exciting again. But I'm tired of this bull junk over in Colorado.
Okay. All right. Okay. But it still doesn't negate the fact of what is going on at UC.
No.
I mean, Elliot, look, you say whatever you would say. This is not good. I mean, this is not good. They've got some talented players on that team now.
Listen.
All right, but here's a question I want to ask you because you've already addressed this, but I want to ask you very sincerely this.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. You've lost 4 straight. Emory Jones is in his last year of eligibility. Right?
Year 6.
Okay. He's transferred 3 times. He went from Florida to Arizona State, now to UC. Okay? They have, it's my understanding, some very talented young quarterbacks in that stable that they brought in there.
Yes, they do.
Would you consider right now making a change at quarterback?
No, I don't. I mean, giving those guys reps would certainly help.
The season's a wash.
But the season's dead. So
yeah, why not? So why wouldn't you make?
That's
a change
why I
then?
asked the decision.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it like it's a lost season, and maybe you're not looking at it like it's a lost season.
It is.
But if all right, well then why wouldn't you make a change?
Yeah, it's certainly not working with Emory Jones. So if your goal is to win football games, then yeah, maybe you should look to move him because he just hasn't been good. He was overthrowing every receiver we had on Saturday. Iowa State's not a good football team, guys. Iowa State's not a good football team. We can say whatever we want. Big 12, it's a competitive conference. I get it. It's a major upgrade from where UC was last year in the American. But Iowa State is a beatable football team, and they were just boat raced. Emory Jones didn't look good. I'm looking at it here. Emory Jones was 14 for 26, 96 yards.
Yeah.
A touchdown and 2 picks. So yeah, at this point, sure. Give everybody some reps. Bench Emory Jones. His time's done. Still a Heisman front runner. Obviously, he's probably ranked 250th, but he's on the list. But give it a rest. He's done. Season's over for Emory Jones. I thank him for his service. It's not working out. Very sorry about it. I guess I would agree with you. I guess if the season's a wash, then let everybody else play. But this is a disaster. I expected.
We knew this year was going to be bad.
I did.
The
Yeah,
over
I knew
under
it
was
was gonna be
4.5.
bad.
I did.
What are we talking about?
I did.
All right, look, I'm not jumping on the Satterfield run him out of town bandwagon.
No,
I'm
you
not.
can't be. You
Okay?
can't be.
I'm not at all. I'm not. But does it trouble you at all that here he walks in after they had a decent team last year? They weren't great last year in Luke Fickell's final season, right? And they were in a very different conference as far as competition is concerned. No two ways about that. But Brom replaced Satterfield in Louisville. You had them, if I recall correctly, ranked number 5 in the nation last week.
Yeah, it was Satterfield's
which we'll
team.
readdress that tomorrow, by the way.
After
But-
a loss, they're probably down to 6.
Yeah, they're down to 6.
But
and again,
the
that's
fact
Satterfield.
is, somebody's walked into that program and had them ranked 14th in the country.
I was against
Undefeated. Beat Notre Dame.
I was against the Satterfield hire from the beginning. I think most of the fan base was. It was an uninspiring hire. Deion Sanders, again, the hype around him, the hoopla around him, whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
he does bring an energy about him.
Yeah.
He is a team guy. He's going to get the people fired up. He's going to get the fan base fired up. He's going to make you like football. He's going to make you like enjoying to watch football. Satterfield's not that guy. Louisville hated him. The fans at Louisville wanted him gone. He came here. I didn't like the hire. So far, it's not working out. And I think you're seeing that on Twitter. It's very vocal on Twitter because, again, I would say there was maybe 1% of the fan base that was like, yeah, this was a good hire. We like Scott Satterfield. Nobody said that. So that's what you're seeing now. It's a lot of vitriol. It's a lot of hate towards Scott Satterfield. This is the situation he's in. I'm hoping his recruiting class gets better. You're in the Big 12. I expect better recruits. We're going to have to start paying guys with the NIL stuff. Next year we're going to improve. I expect a 7-win season next year, and after that, we'll go from there. If he tanks out the rest of this year, if we finish with 3 wins, and next year we have 4 wins, it's done. He would be done at that point.
UC still has to play Baylor,
Yeah, their
Oklahoma
schedule's not
State,
very tough.
UCF, Houston, West Virginia, Kansas. They still have an opportunity to sneak some wins out from West
Yes,
Virginia
they do.
and Kansas, in my opinion.
Yes,
Yeah,
they do.
I mean, the issue is, though, they haven't even been close to beating beatable teams. BYU, as much as they were in that game, BYU, dominated.
Yeah, it was 28-13.
Yeah, and BYU got massacred over the
Massacred.
weekend by TCU, who made a change at quarterback for the first time this year, and they put up 50 points on BYU.
Yeah, and losing to Miami, Ohio at home was the straw that broke the camel's back. So no
Losing
matter
the
what
victory
happened,
bell?
no matter what,
Losing the victory
losing
bell?
the victory bell for the first time in 3,000 years
Right.
was a tough one to swallow. It surely was. No matter what happened the rest of the year, looking back at that loss, it was just an embarrassment. So we've lost 4 in a row. You just got to keep fighting until the end at this point. Just fight until the end. Hopefully you cash the win total over, which again is 5 wins.
You did get a transitive win this weekend, though. UC beat Pitt. Pitt beat Louisville. It's a transitive win. You take that one to the bank.
transitive win.
You know
That's a
what,
transitive
you guys,
win, Tom.
Transitive win.
you guys or you remind me of Casey
Who do we
when it
remind you of?
comes to UC. Casey with the Bengals. Tyreek Hill, our 4th option.
I think we debunked the 4th option thing, Tom. I think Tyreek Hill would be
It's
like
the
our
sixth.
6th.
He's the 6th
He's
option.
the 6th option.
And
I forgot.
Again, we're also excluding like Charlie Jones, who's
He's hurt. That's right.
Maybe he would be 7.
Comes back 7.
He's got a bad hand. Is that right, Charlie
Like Elliott.
Jones?
I'm
pretty sure that's what it is. It's a hand injury. Hand out, needle in. Get on the field.
That's right.
Tom, what else happened in the NFL? What else happened in the NFL?
Let's talk about the Browns for a second.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of glossed over the Browns a little
Well,
bit.
that's because all you do is badmouth them all the time. That's the reason why we don't talk more about the Browns on the show, because as you guys know, I have defended the city of Cleveland.
yeah.
I have said it has some of the most beautiful suburbs of anywhere
that's your
in America.
fault.
And I have defended the Brownies.
that sounds like a losing battle because they still are pretty nauseating in all
Right,
honesty.
they
They
smell
win against a
pretty bad.
team that lost their
They
2
just
best
beat the
offensive
San
players.
Francisco
They lost their top left
49ers.
tackle.
They beat a quarterback who had never lost a game in the regular season. 10-0.
Tom,
Until
they're
he
acting
rolled
like
into Cleveland.
They're acting like they won the Super Bowl, though. They barely beat a team that lost their 2 best offensive stars, one of the best left tackles in all of football, and it came down to a missed field goal.
You want
Come
to take
on.
you want to take about the Browns, all jokes aside about the nauseating and they stink and everything like that. Here's a take about the Cleveland Browns that I feel strongly about. The Cleveland Browns are a better version of the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh,
I disagree.
I think that what do the Dallas Cowboys do well? They've got a great defense.
They've got a great defense, but they have
The Browns have a better defense. They
Yeah,
both
but
have,
the
that's
Cowboys have
statistically
had
true.
a good quarterback. He may not be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but the Brownies haven't had anybody.
I think I think they're both limited quarterbacks. I think Deshaun Watson is not as good as Dak, but I think they're both in the same ballpark of game managers and just middle of the pack quarterbacks. I don't believe. Dak
I agree with that.
always shrinks in big games. I think that the Cleveland Browns are a better version of the Dallas Cowboys. I think they run the ball better. I think they play better defense. And I think the only thing that they might be worse than the Dallas Cowboys is I think they take a slight step down in quarterback play. Other than that, I think they do everything that the Cowboys do, but better. The only thing that the Cowboys have is they play in an inferior conference in the NFC. And I think the AFC North is the best conference in the league.
Yeah, I disagree. I think the Cowboys are a far better team. Far better. Dak Prescott has looked bad this season, Dak Prescott and we can all joke about Dak Prescott. We can joke about that drive he had when he couldn't get to the ball in time, whatever playoff game that was. He completed, or he ran over the middle with 10 seconds left, ended their playoffs, ended their season in the playoffs. All the silly things Dak Prescott's done, he's still been a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League for his entire career. Dak Prescott has been a top 10.
Yes, he has.
And that's not like a debate. That's just a fact. Statistically, he has been.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, we can say hyperbole.
Well, but Deshaun Watson was before he got to Cleveland.
Deshaun Watson's the same.
No, but it's not nearly the same thing because Deshaun Watson has not looked like himself in Cleveland.
I agree.
He has been a bottom 5 quarterback for the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
And that's the part where I look at them and I say I can't picture Deshaun Watson, lover of masseuses. I can't picture him holding up the Lombardi Trophy. I can't picture it.
You can't picture him what?
Holding up the Lombardi Trophy. I can't picture that team. I can't picture Deshaun Watson. Anybody
Can you
on the
picture
Browns.
Dak Prescott?
I can.
No.
I think I could.
No.
I could.
Not
I
a
could.
chance. No chance.
I think Deshaun Watson is not a great guy, and I don't love him at all. And I think his quarterback play, unfortunately, has been bad.
Read the super chat.
We got a super chat. I'll read it to you, Elliot.
Swaggy Plague.
Yeah, $5 super chat. Purdy is the Elliot of the National Football League. He's a pretty boy surrounded by talent.
So I'm pretty. Thank you. That's what I took from that. That's what I took from that.
That is the main takeaway. That's a great chat.
That's
great
good.
super chat, Swaggy.
Whatever. Swaggy, that was mean, but I'm gonna get over it.
What was mean about it? He
called
paid
you
you a
pretty.
night. Are you kidding? He compared you to Brock Purdy. I mean, there are a lot worse people that you can be compared to. Right? He didn't compare you to Deshaun Watson.
Thank God.
Okay.
Thank God. Thank God, Tom.
He compared you to Brock Purdy, who was undefeated, a man who was literally the last Mr. Irreverent.
Yeah.
Right? The last choice. Or is it Mr. Irrelevant?
Irrelevant.
All right, relevant. So he is the last guy taken, takes over as the starter, goes undefeated, and he's comparing you to him, and you're taking that in a negative way? What the hell are you laughing at?
Somebody in the chat, I won't repeat it. You can look at it if you want, Tom, but they gave Reed a comparison too. I'm not going to repeat that one out loud. But listen.
Are you talking about Harrow?
Yeah. Listen.
We're not going there.
No, I'm not going there. Listen. Brock Purdy is a fine quarterback. But again, he's another one. He's going to prove Reed and I's point that you have to have a good quarterback in this league to win a Super Bowl.
But he drove his team down to field goal range. Like he got them in a position to win.
Sure, he did.
Like I think that's the most important thing is the win column when it comes to some of these quarterbacks. Yes, he had a lot of stats to prove my point, but I know he didn't play great this last week. But that is literally a historic defense right now. It is a unprecedented sort of record that they're going on. 1,000 yards within 6 weeks. That's 200 yards, like less than 200 yards a game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's a great defense.
I mean,
that's why I think
defense.
They're a better version of the Dallas Cowboys. I truly believe that. Tom, I got another thing that I wanted to bring up. I saw a lot of people talking about this on X.com, and I want to hear your opinion.
Yep.
There was a GM, a quote from a GM, they didn't release who it was, that they said that Caleb Williams, if he was in the same draft class as Trevor Lawrence and or Joe Burrow, would still go number one in that draft.
I saw that.
Terrible take.
Do you believe that to be true, or are you pushing back on that? That if Caleb Williams was in Trevor Lawrence's draft class, if Trevor Lawrence was in Joe Burrow's draft class, that he wouldn't go number one?
Look, if you're talking about, if you just look at the tools of the players, okay? I think we all agree all three of those guys can really throw the football.
Right.
Okay? I think it's fair to say Williams, without question, has the best arm strength of that trio.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
He is also, now Trevor Lawrence was a hell of a runner in college. People forget that. Mm-hmm. He can really run. He can't run like Williams can run. Williams can run. Burrow was when he picked his spots, right? He's made a lot of big runs for this franchise. Burrow was a 2-year starter. He had to transfer to become a starter at LSU, right? Now, Lawrence was a 3-year starter at Clemson, okay? If Caleb Williams were to come back one more year, he would be a 3-year starter at USC, okay? So you're talking about big-time programs, all three guys, right?
Correct.
Burrow had, without question, I don't even think it's debatable, he had the greatest single season of any college quarterback of all time, the year statistically that LSU won the national championship. But do I think Williams, at the end of the day, if all three were coming out of the draft? Absolutely, I think Williams would be the first pick.
I agree. All these Bengals fans were upset at this thing.
Why would they be upset? What is it?
It's all
is it
hypothetical,
something
right?
because somebody thinks that there's a more talented guy when he was 20 years old than your quarterback now in the pros? Why in the world would Bengals fans be upset by that?
I'm right there with you, Tom. And I even see some people going, yeah, Caleb might have been drafted over Trevor Lawrence, but not Joe Burrow. Listen, if all three of these quarterbacks were in the same draft class, I truly believe it would go Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow would be the third guy, despite the year that he had.
I don't know if I'd have put Lawrence over him.
Well, here's
But
the thing.
they have more physical talent. Caleb Williams and Trevor Lawrence, and I know that's not the end-all, be-all, because we see what physical talent gets you sometimes in the NFL, and the guys like Zach Wilson was impressive. All these guys that are physically gifted and haven't panned out. But I think that we are looking at Caleb Williams and Trevor Lawrence are two of the most hyped. The second that we saw them start playing, we're like, this is the number one pick in the draft. We didn't say that about Joe Burrow till really the end of that year. We were watching Joe Burrow, and he's having this incredible year. The LSU Tigers are whooping up on all these ranked teams. I think they had 8 ranked wins that year. And we didn't start saying this is the number one pick in the draft till around the end of the year, till around the college football playoff when he really started to cement it. Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams, they're the first pick of the draft really since the start of their freshman year. We know that. And out of the best prospects to come out of my lifetime, I don't think Caleb Williams goes ahead of Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck, I still think, is the best prospect to come out in my lifetime. But other than that, it would go Andrew Luck, Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow.
As good as Joe Burrow's been, I love Joe Burrow. He's my guy. He's my quarterback. He had one good year in college. He had one good season. And I get that maybe that's all you need. But the year before that, he played a full season, was nothing to write home about. He had 16 touchdowns, 5 picks. His completion percentage that year was 57%. And the other 2 years, he just didn't play. He was a freshman. He was a sophomore. So he had two full seasons in college. One of them was significantly below average. And the other one was, granted, it was probably the best season a quarterback's had in college.
No doubt about it.
But he's had one good season. He had one good season in college. So if this debate is solely on their college careers, Joe Burrow would go last, and that sucks. Trevor Lawrence has had a significantly better college career. That's right. I'm not wrong in that.
No doubt.
Caleb Williams, again, same thing. I think he's significantly more talented based on his college feat, his college accolades. So, yeah, I would think Joe Burrow would definitely go last.
And look, there's a chance that Williams, and his numbers are not going to come close to last year because, I mean, anybody who's watched this coming, and we've talked about it on this show, you could watch this SC team from the start of the year. They were playing San Jose State and some of these teams, and he's running for his life. This offensive line he's playing in front of at SC is not even average. It is below average. And he got killed against Notre Dame the other day.
Yeah.
Notre Dame couldn't get near. Ohio State's offensive line isn't all that great. And the Notre Dame defensive line couldn't get anywhere near Kyle McCord. I mean, every time Williams is catching the ball out of shotgun, he's running for his life.
I mean, I'm going to push back just a little bit just to play the other side. Let's just look at Joe Burrow's draft class already. It was Tua.
It was loaded,
Tua was a great quarterback for Alabama, had many great seasons.
Tua was hyped as a number one pick.
Justin Herbert had number one type hype around him before those two guys were really put in the picture. For you guys to sit there and say that Trevor Lawrence would be ahead of Joe Burrow, I would push back on that. Same with Caleb Williams. It depends on who's picking, right? Because the Bengals clearly picked Joe Burrow because of that one season. If it was any other team, like we don't know what they valued more. Do they value the other years consistently? Like, if you look back on it, if Joe Burrow were to have failed as a Bengal, it would have been one of the worst decisions that they could have possibly made.
Right, because all the other quarterbacks were good. But yeah, Casey, here's the thing, and I think Drew Garrison put this in the chat, and that's the point. And this is why talk radio is so great sometimes, because we'll never know the answer to this. This is all a hypothetical game. But I truly believe that if Trevor Lawrence came out in the same class as Joe Burrow, we wouldn't have even had a discussion. I don't think we would have even debated who we were drafting. It would be Trevor Lawrence. Because after Trevor Lawrence's freshman year at Clemson, he was the number 1 pick. We knew whenever he was going to come out, Trevor Lawrence is the number 1 pick. And that's what happened. And it's the same thing with Caleb Williams. We saw him play last year, and they said, all right, whenever Caleb Williams wants to come out, he's the number 1 pick. Joe Burrow wasn't the number 1 pick until the college football playoff. He wasn't the number 1 pick until week 12 of that year because we just didn't see enough of him. And you can say, yeah, he had that great year. It might have changed decisions. No, it wouldn't have. If all these guys came out, it would go Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence is a harder decision, but I still think that Joe Burrow would go 3rd.
Jolly brings up a great point to tie a ribbon around this discussion because you're right, we're never going to know. Those same NFL executives were the guys who picked Brock Purdy the last pick in the draft. So,
fair enough.
Right?
That's fair.
I mean, and we've talked about this many times. Brian Billick, who we'll have back on the program here coming up soon, he wrote a chapter in one of his books about it. Drafting a quarterback with a top pick. It's a 50-50 proposition. I mean, all I heard this offseason, was Bryce Young. Nobody got raked over the coals leading up to the draft more than C.J. Stroud. How we looking? First interception Stroud threw yesterday of his career. Longest ever in the history of the NFL to start a career without throwing a pick. He rallies to throw 2 touchdown passes, and the Houston Texans have the same record as the Bengals.
Yeah.
Did he get that pick back? Did they fumble the interception? Is that what I saw?
I didn't watch it.
I wasn't able to watch the game. Now I have to look it up. Somebody in the chat can tell me. But I'm pretty sure he threw the interception. They fumbled it, and then they got the ball back. I'm not writing off. Yeah, that is what happened. So it's just wild. That's wild. Stroud's been good. Stroud's been damn good. Far and away the best quarterback out of that class. He's shown it. The Texans, who many people, including myself, ruled dead before the season, they have life. They now have life.
The AFC South is going to be. That's going to be a fun division towards the end of the year.
It is going to be fun.
Yep.
Because all the teams, I don't think any of those teams, maybe except a great run from the Jaguars, are series contenders in the AFC. But you could see any one of these teams at this point winning that division.
No doubt.
You truly could.
No doubt.
It's going to be a fun division.
And that makes it fun. It's kind of like this division the Bengals are in. I think you can make an argument. Now, I might have a harder time selling the Steelers.
That's fair.
Okay.
You can see the Steelers
might have a
make
hard
the postseason,
time. Yeah.
But you can't see them winning the division.
I mean, they're the only undefeated team inside the division.
That's fair.
So, I mean, look, we'll see. But, yeah, I mean, that's going to be a fun division to watch. I tell you the division that's a highly competitive division that I don't think is very fun to watch. And it's always been one of the most entertaining divisions to watch when the divisional teams play. And I've done a ton of their games in the past. You go look at the NFC South. Mm-hmm. When those teams play against one another, it is some of the most entertaining football over the last decade and a half, right? And they're normally very good games. Now, Carolina hasn't won a game, but the NFC South is awful. Tampa Bay's got a good defense. Yeah. Baker's been pretty good, but brutal. I think that AFC South is a more fun division to watch this year.
That's fair. You know what's crazy is both out of those 8 teams, out of those 2 divisions, only 2 of them have a under 500 record. But you're right about the NFC South, about how it's not fun football to watch. You get the Saints on the Falcons, and that doesn't move the needle. Is the NFC South one of the more slept-on divisions over the past decade?
Well, it has been. It has been. They've had great success. They've had a number of Super Bowl champions come out of there.
Right.
I mean, so yeah, they do, but they're not in the quote-unquote big markets and all that kind of thing. All right, it's 11:50. What do we have to get to left in the show today?
I think the only segment we have left is a cherry on top. But other than that, I'm not sure.
Okay, we haven't talked about baseball. We'll go ahead, Casey.
No, let's talk about baseball. We haven't talked baseball yet.
We haven't talked baseball. Look, I know you guys get mad at me. The Reds could have made a deal for a pitcher. Said it at the time. You weren't going to have to give up much. You telling me that Jordan Montgomery or a couple of these other guys out there would not have potentially made a difference in the Reds getting into the postseason? And then once you get in, who thought the Diamondbacks would be undefeated right now? 5-0. Sweep the Brewers 2 straight. Sweep the mighty Dodgers 3 straight. Once you get in, anything can happen. If you had Jordan Montgomery and maybe a hot Hunter Green, would you take your chances with that group? I'd take my chances with that group. But we're never going to know, so why sit here and beat a dead horse?
The thing that killed the Reds was the offense. The offense went
It
away.
did.
The offense went away for a month. Despite the pitching, and yeah, the Reds starting pitching wasn't good either this year, statistically. The offense going to sleep for a month and a half killed the season. So I understand your point. If you had a starting pitcher, so we're not throwing out Connor Phillips in an elimination game against the Cardinals to end your season. He gave up 10 runs in 1 inning or whatever it was.
No, he didn't get an out.
So So would I have liked to have a better pitcher in that spot? Yeah, sure I would have. But to get up into that point, it was the offense going to sleep. Ellie De La Cruz turned into one of the people aren't going to like what I say. People don't like what he said. People aren't going to like what I said. Ellie De La Cruz, statistically, and this again, I love Ellie De La Cruz. I have to preface that so I don't get bombarded by angry fans. Statistically, he was one of the worst players, not on the team, but in Major League Baseball for that stretch of time. And listen, it's the truth. His strikeout percentage was through the roof. Right-handed, he can't swing a bat. His power went way down. His extra base hits went way down. Yeah, his stolen bases went way down. His defense at shortstop went way down. I think he committed like 18 errors this year. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he committed a ton of errors. Ellie De La Cruz offensively went to sleep. You couldn't trust him anymore. Matt McClain got hurt. That was a large part of the reason. So offensively, the team just died. So that's the reason. If you want to argue we could have gotten another bat, at that point I would have argued that we wouldn't need another bat because our offense up until the trade deadline was good. So that's my only counter,
Okay.
and I get your point. I understand it completely.
Okay.
But and to your credit, I think the Reds are just as good as the Diamondbacks. I do believe that. So a fully healthy Reds team, this 2023 Reds team, I think they could have made noise in the postseason. I think they're surely better than the Marlins, I think talent-wise. So, yeah, I unequivocally, somebody would have helped the Reds team at the deadline. They didn't do it. That sucks. We're on to next year. I love our chances next season. Love them.
See, I'm going to go in the camp that I think it was smart that the Reds didn't make a move. Listen, you can't look at Jordan Montgomery and say, why didn't the Reds get Jordan Montgomery when every other pitcher that was traded at the deadline was traded for a king's ransom? You say they didn't cost a whole lot. I think the Reds were in the market to get a starting pitcher, and it was just a little too rich for their blood. Maybe they went with low expectations and really weren't trying to go after one, but they did definitely test the waters, and they just decided it was going to cost too much. Every other pitcher that was traded did not do well. Michael Lorenzen, I know he had the no-hitter, didn't pitch well. He's not even on the playoff roster.
Didn't make the roster.
Didn't even make the playoff roster
I
for
understand that.
for the
I
Phillies.
didn't say that every one of those deals works out. I'm saying you had to take the chance and you would not have had to break the bank. And there's no guarantee. I mean, I keep reading everybody in the chat. You know, I mean, everybody around here is talking like the Reds are going to do next year be better than they were this year. I don't know that. I have no idea about that. What is Ellie De La Cruz? Elliot brings up a great point. What is Ellie De La Cruz? I know he's an enormously talented dude. There's no debate about that, but what is he? Half of you out there killed Jonathan India this year. Wanted him gone. What is Jonathan India? I don't know what he is. All I heard about was how great Tyler Stevenson is. What is Tyler Stevenson? I don't know what he is. What do I know about Nick Lodolo? I know he can't stay on the field. God bless him. I'm rooting for him. Seems like a great kid. I know 2 years in a row Graham Ashcraft is hurt. That's what I know. I know 2 years in a row that Hunter Green is hurt. That's what I know. And those facts cannot be countered. They can't. Those are facts. So for everybody to say, oh, man, our window next 3, 4, 5 years, man, we're going to be kicking ass and taking names. There's no guarantee about that. The Cardinals were picked by probably 95% of the quote-unquote experts to win the National League Central Division this year. They were lucky they did not lose 100 games. All right. Diamondbacks. Can they shock the Philadelphia Phillies? Yay or nay? Game 1 tonight. Zach Gallen v. Zach Wheeler.
This is why playoff baseball is so exciting. You get Zach Gallen, Zach Wheeler, 2 wildcard teams going in there. I don't know, Tom. It's going to be an electric atmosphere in the bank. You know that. You know in Philadelphia they're gonna bring it. I don't fully believe in the Diamondbacks, and they've showed me every reason to believe. They got all this young talent. They play with so much spunk. They like defense. They run around the bases so well. But man, the Phillies just got that lineup. Every single guy that comes up to the plate for the Phillies, you're like, oh, this guy can put one in the gap right now. This guy can put one over the fence. I just think the Phillies lineup is going to be too much, but we'll see. That's what's great. They're going to go up against 2 of the best pitchers in the National League, and Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly the next 2 nights. I like the Phillies in this one, Tom.
Okay.
It seems to me like the Phillies are the best team in the playoffs right now.
More than the Astros?
Yeah.
More than Astros.
Rangers.
What about the Rangers?
Yeah, the Rangers too.
Right now, the Phillies appear to be, for me, the hottest team in the playoffs, and that's who I would be riding with.
They've got that edge too.
I think Philly home field advantage. I know people like to joke, oh, it's Philly, whatever. Philly playing in that ballpark has to be one of the coolest feelings ever as a player.
No doubt.
Because every fan, every pitch, loud as they can be, they're singing every walk-up song. I think Phillies, if they can win against the Diamondbacks, they're winning this World Series. I know that's whatever. It's only one game. You know what I mean? It's an easy to call that if they were to win this and advance to the World Series. But I'm saying, as of right now, I think they're the best team in the playoffs.
Okay. Casey, any chance for the battling D-backs, as they call them, the battling D-backs?
I mean,
Against a fighting Phil.
The Serpents.
All I've been told all baseball season long is that when you get in the playoffs, it's all bets are off.
That's right.
Anyone can win at that point.
That's right.
So, yeah, of course there's a chance that the Diamondbacks can win this. Of course there's a chance.
Attaboy, Casey. Attaboy.
right.
Are you a pseudo D-backs fan?
No, I'm not a pseudo D-backs fan. I'm a D-backs fan. I loved working for that franchise. I loved living there. I am a D-backs fan, no doubt about it. I'm rooting for him.
Will you wear the jersey if they win this? If they win, will we take it all out of its frame and you wear the jersey?
No, because they don't wear those anymore. They changed the colors. I wish they wouldn't.
What does that
have
have
done
to do with that?
You can wear a retro jersey.
Put it on for the show one day. We'll take
Come
it out of
on.
the frame.
Make it to the World Series.
It's too nice of a frame.
It is too nice.
It's too nice.
We'll get a fake one. So Big C, Corey, my guy, he super chat for him. Not really happy about Anthony Richardson possibly getting season-ending surgery. Shout out to the Colts for not winning a game in Jacksonville in like 10 years. I think that does stink.
That's too bad.
Why?
I hate to see that happen to young people.
There's some teams that just can't play in Florida. The Patriots always struggle in
Yep.
Miami. The Colts always struggle in Jacksonville. That's weird.
Jacksonville struggles in Jacksonville. They have to go to London.
Right, that's their home team.
Other than that, I do have a cherry on top, Casey. It's one of the things I sent you. It's the most recent thing I sent you on Twitter. It happened in the 49ers-Browns game. We were talking about poor officiating throughout this show. There was a lot of it in that game specifically, including there was a ball that was placed. They brought up the sticks. They measured it. They called this short. The edge of the football is past what is it a stick?
Pylon,
the chains,
pylon.
whatever they call it, the stick, the big stick,
No, that's not the pylon. Yeah, it's
the big orange
chains.
the big orange stick.
Yeah.
The ball was past it. They called it short. They said, no, that's not past it. You can see it right here. The ball was past the thing.
Well, the other part about it is, when you look at that, is they're leaning
Yeah.
the stick sideways.
Correct. So they ruled it. They ruled this play short. I mean, it was just some of the worst officiating I've ever seen, truly.
That's wild.
Crazy.
Wow. All right, so tomorrow we have our Power 5. Everybody's going to give their Power 5 in college and pro football.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
We'll talk more about the baseball playoffs, talk more about this Bengals game. They have a week off, a bye week this week, and then go to San Francisco. We'll learn more about the deal with the injuries with the 49ers because, I mean, even though the Niners have a game between then and now against Minnesota, those are two huge injuries for the Niners in Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. So lots more to talk about tomorrow. We thank everybody for being with us here today. Casey, I'm glad you're in a good mood. You're feeling better about life these last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to walk back through any gambling that may have taken place over the weekend.
Well, we do have boxed lunch after this.
Oh, you do? Okay.
So we will
All
be
right.
going over some gambling.
I'm so
there.
glad you told me that. Thank you. So, without further ado, for Reed, Elliot, Casey, and our entire cast of thousands behind the scene, Thom Brennaman saying thanks so much for watching Off the Bench. Here we go. Box lunch.